Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 204 of Build Your Stash and Craft. I was asked by Anne or Annie, I'm not sure how she says it, to do something with paper plates. She said that she had the hard paper plates and she wanted to know what to do with them. So this is the type of paper plate that I have, but whether you have this kind or the kind that's more cardboardy or even the plain white ones, they'll all work this way because they all have a little bit of a scoop in them, and so they'll work for what we're going to use them for. And we're going to use them for some different types of decorative storage and places to just kind of put something when you get it done or you have extra bits out and you want to take care of them. It's a good place to just kind of toss them and then put them away later on or whatever. So I just have, these are, I think, Dixie plates, and this is the only kind I have in my house, so this is what I'm going to use, but you can use whatever you have. And I'll show you what we're going to make. We have this one, and this one hangs on a wall, and it has this pocket here, and you just put a hanger on the back. Whenever you hang something like this, always put your hanger as close to the top as you can. That way, if you put it way down here, a lot of times it will want to like flip forward. So always put your hanger as close to the top as you can. And I'm going to show you how to make this one today. But it just has a very nice size pocket, and you can just use it. You've got some tags that you've been working on. You want some place to put them. You've got this hanging up next to you on the wall or on the side of your desk. And it just gives you a place to put all of those things. And then later on, you're like, oh, I need some tags. And you can just flip through there and see what's in there and get out whatever it is that you need. But they work really nice. They have a lot of space. You know, that's quite a few right there. And there's just a ton more space in there to fit more. So they're fun things to make. And, once you start playing with it, you'll think of lots of different things you can do. And I'll just show you another one that I thought of. That one I've made since I was young. This one, I can remember making these when I was young and hanging them on my wall and having little bits in them. But this one, as I was cutting that one out, I was kind of tossing some plates to the side. And I came up with this one because this is, they kind of stack themselves up on each other. But this one, you've got a nice spot on the bottom, and then you have these spots here. Now, I stapled this together because I just wanted to show you what you can do. I'll give you a quick walkthrough on it, but I'm not going to make another one of these. But all I did was I cut some paper plates in half. I had a full one, and then I cut one in half, and I just turned it upside down. Once I cut it in half, I turned it upside down and I just stapled it right here. Now, what I would do with this, I will wind up having to take this apart, but I will glue that all the way around. And I will even glue these little edges down. What you do is you take your paper plate and kind of round that edge down before you glue it. And that way, it will go down here and want to stay down there. But I will glue this because gluing it makes it sturdier because the glue gets hard and that helps give you a little extra strength. And then here in these ones, I just stapled them really quickly, but I would glue those, and I would glue here. And so I would glue all of these parts wherever they come together, put glue on those and let that glue dry. Maybe put a little clip on there, like a clothespin, glue it and put some clothespins around there to hold it together. And, like I said, I just stapled it, but as you see, like even here, you want to glue all of that. When you go to put those two plates together, you want to put glue on there and then put them together because that's going to not only make them stronger, it will make them sturdier. They'll be able to hold just a little bit more. And, but you would just glue between each of the plates and glue around the edges as you put them together. But this one, what would you use it for? Well, let's say, as you're working on something and it's like, oh, I've got these extra buttons on my desk and I'm just going to toss them all in there. And then later on, I'm making some jewelry and I toss some beads in there because I don't want to go put them away right now, but I need a place to get them off my desk. So that just works out as a really good idea just to throw all, it doesn't matter what it is. You just put your extra bits that you need to put away later. you just toss them on there and it gets them out of the way while you're working. Or you can use it for a specific item that you use all the time. Let's say you use a lot of buttons. You can just use that to just put your buttons in there, and you'll have a place to keep them corralled when you're working. You can pull them out from the back, sort through them, and find the one that you want. Oh, that's the one I want right there. And then for your little shelves there, again, you're making some tags. You're just sitting there making some tags, but you don't want to put them away right away. You don't have a place to put them. Maybe you don't have a journal to put them in. Well, you just toss them in there, maybe by color, or by like, oh, well, I have a journal that's going to be turquoise. So I'm going to put all of my turquoise tags in this pocket, because then when I go to make that journal, then all of those tags are there and I can pull them out and I can see which ones I want to use. And then, one that's very abstract. So I'm going to put all my abstract ones down here, or maybe flowers or whatever. So that just makes it so you've got a place that you can throw those things. And then again, even on the top, you've got a place where when you're done with something and you don't want to put it away or whatever, you can just toss it right up there and put it away later. Like I said, if you glue this, it will be a little more sturdy. This is not going to hold super heavy stuff, especially on the very top. But that's quite a few tags. That is a, good amount of tags in there. And it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't bending it or anything. So this is another one that is just really fun to make. And again, you have a whole paper plate with a half of a paper plate inverted on top of it. Then cut a paper plate in half, put it together. That's your next level. Cut a paper plate in half, put it together. That's your next level. Cut a paper plate in half, put it together. That's your next level. And the half that you had left over from this half right here, put it on the top. And then you just decorate them up the way that you want to. This is even pretty the way it is. It doesn't have to be decorated. It's a pretty plate, just, the way it is. So those are the kind of things you can do with your paper plates. And if you think about it, you could do it as kind of like an accordion file folder type thing that can sit on your desk, and you can stand stuff up in it like this. So you can do it that way too. Maybe not have a solid one on the back, or maybe you want that on there so that you can slide that up against your wall, and then all of these stick out on this side. If you were going to do that, what I would do is I would, on this side, I would cut a flat spot on each one of these so that it didn't want to roll back and forth. Although once you put something heavy in it, it kind of is going to stay the way you have it. But if you bump it, it'll rock. So you could just cut a flat spot on the bottom of each of those paper plates. And you could do that by lining them, taking however many plates you want and then cutting them off flat while they're together so that all those flat spots are all the same. So if you do it each one, they may be off a little bit, but if you just cut them all at the same time, if you're doing half of paper plates, then you would cut them in half, stack them all together, and then cut them off in a straight line so that you could set them all up, and the line on each one would be exactly the same. So those are just a couple things you can do with paper plates. They're fun, they're heavy, you can use them, you can even just use the cardstock on them to make tags, cards, that type of thing. Excuse me. Just think about it. You can cut them out like this, and then you have this piece here, paint it up really nicely so it doesn't look like a paper plate, and use it as a frame with a picture behind it. So there's lots of things you can do, but my favorite is this one, and I love this one. So we're going to make this one today, and I'll just show you how to do that. Okay, so the first thing is we need some paper plates that are halvesies. So here's my pen, there's my pen, here's my ruler. Now, you can measure your paper plate. This is an 8.5 inch paper plate. So center would be 4 1/4. Right there. Okay, and then just eyeball straight. and make a line. Now I find trying to make a line down here is kind of hard to do because your pen is touching your ruler here. But when you go down there, now the side of your pen is touching your ruler, and there is this much distance between the ruler and where you're going to make a line. So I usually just don't make a line. I just kind of go right to where the edge is, and then I just use my scissors to kind of eyeball it. Not the best at that, but just go ahead and start here and just cut right straight to that line. And then we'll see if we got pretty close. They don't have to be totally perfect. You can line them up when you cut however many you want, and make sure that they're all the same. So as we line these up, we'll see that this one in the back is quite a bit bigger. You can see it here better than on the white part. So that is bigger. So what I would do then is, let's say I was going to make this one. If I was going to make this one, I need 1, 2, 3, and these two make 4. I need 4 paper plates. I would basically cut them all like this, and then I would find the shortest one, put it on top because it's the shortest one. You can't make it any longer, and then just go ahead and cut them. Now what you can do, instead of holding them all together, because you know, if you got 4 of them, that's 8 halves. That's going to be awfully thick to try and cut through. Now you can use your razor knife to do that if you wanted, but otherwise you can just do it one at a time. Just go ahead, this is my shortest one, so then get the next one and then the next one and just cut them all. Remember to always use the same paper plate. Don't use this one and then use this one and then use the next one, because what happens is you wind up getting just a touch bigger each time, and if you're making a lot of something, by the time you're done you could have a 1/4 of an inch difference. So whenever you're using something as a template, always use the same one. You can put a mark on it so you know this is the one that I need to use every time I cut a paper plate. That way they'll all be basically the same size. Okay, so now we have cut one in half. We only need 1/2 of a paper plate for this project. And then we are going to just take another paper plate and we're going to put this on here like this. Now, you can either decorate it beforehand or afterwards, whatever you're more comfortable with. I did my other one afterwards, and I thought after I did it, this would probably be a little bit easier to do beforehand. So we'll just grab a stencil here. Now these are not the stencils I bought for the series, but we have bought these stencils for the series. I just didn't know where mine were, and I really didn't want to go look for them. So I'm using this one. It is the same type. This is a stencil from the Dollar Tree. It is sticky on the back, which works nice when you're coming up around the edges of something like this, but you don't have to have that. So, but if you do have one that is sticky on the back side, make sure that you press it down everywhere before you start, because you don't want it to stick down here and wind up with a bump in the middle. So if you have one that's sticky back, you always want to make sure that you've got it pressed down before you start. Now, part of this we're not going to need. So I think actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move it up a little bit and go like this, because I think that this will give us enough coverage that I won't have to like do it a second time. I could have just maybe turned but I did move it up a little bit. Okay, so there we go. And then because we've got the turquoise on here, and I really like brown and turquoise, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stencil it with brown and turquoise, because I like those two colors together. We could also put a little bit of this green on there, because our paper plate is green up here. Now you don't have to leave that like that. You can change that, but maybe we'll go ahead, since we're using those 3 colors, maybe we'll just leave it like that. It will also save us just a little bit of time. I need to get some sponges here. I had sponges out earlier. All right. Well, we'll just use, I think that's one. And I think the brown one I put paint on. Okay. So let's just start with the lightest color first. So that's actually going to be the green. That way you're not how do I say that? This is light. As I'm tamping it on here, I'm also getting ink out here. If I did the brown first, then later on when I went to do the green, I would get the brown all over my sponge with my green, and it would really mix. Whereas if I get a little bit of this green on my brown sponge, you're really not going to see it because the brown is darker than the green. So I am not going to use a whole bunch of this because it's not really taking that well. Also, I forgot to say what you can do. I didn't, but you can. And it would work probably better because this is a shiny paper plate. If it's not shiny, you don't have to worry about it. But you could put some gesso on here or a little bit of white paint so that it gives the ink something to stick to better than the shiny surface of the paper plate. So, but since I didn't do it, so I'm just going to deal with it. Then I'll go with the blue or turquoisey color. And on the other one, I just mixed them. I just kind of did a little bit of blue, then a little bit of brown. But since this one kind of has these nice swirly patterns that do actually have a start and stop point, I think I'll just do each one of the swirls. Whoops. All one color. But then I can always go back and just touch a little bit of the other colors in with them. Kind of maybe take this and just give it a couple of touches here. Also, when you're done, you're going to want to dry it with a hair dryer or with your heat gun. Just kind of get it heat set because it's shiny on there. If you had done the gesso, you wouldn't have to worry about that. And I did do gesso on my edges on this one here. I just did a very light coat of gesso, and then I put a little bit of brown paint on it. This is just brown watercolor paint, just Cheapy Kids watercolors that we have. And this side, I didn't need to gesso or anything because it's the back of the paper plate and it's plain paper. Here I put some gesso so that my brown would stick to it. And I did this very lightly like that to let the colors behind come through, just to draw the whole thing together. So we'll just get these colors finished up on here. Oops, I think that I just did the wrong one. I think I had started this one, but it really doesn't matter. And we're going to say how much do we actually need to do. We do need to still do over here. So we'll do that one with the turquoise. And it's better, I always, whenever I stencil, I pounce like this. That doesn't really do you the best good. The best good is because you have to get through the stencil, even though it seems very thin, there's a thickness there you have to get through. So you take your sponge and just push down on it and then lift up. You get much better color than just doing this. Because when you're doing that, it only gets in parts of the places. If you just give it a press and then lift it up, it gives that ink enough time to get through the stencil and actually sink into your paper, whatever you're putting it on, a little bit easier. I think I'm going to come up here and put a little bit of this blue on that brown one. And maybe a little bit right there. And then I'll put some down here just in case it shows. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to take this off. And there we go. Isn't that pretty? Gotta love a stencil. Okay, and that's going to go on there. So we don't need any more than that. Then we can go ahead and we can color the back of our paper plate. And since I did my other one in brown, I think maybe I will do this one. Do I have a turquoisey color? I'm going to set that plate aside. Where's my... I have to get my brush. I just used a sponge brush just because it was quick. And I'm going to get this one wet and this one. And maybe I'll kind of mix the two colors together, because I think that one's too light and I think this one might be too dark. Oops. And while that's sitting for a second, I should cover these up. Put the sponges with them in case we decide we need them again. And this is just a cheapy watercolor set from the Dollar Tree that we have in our stash. Just get some of that on there. And I think I'm going to do the whole... I did that with the brown one too. I was going to do brown and then a little bit of blue. And I wound up just doing the whole thing brown. But I like this color. I do like this color blue. It's going to be fine. It's not too dark. And you can do it as fancy as you want to. I kind of like to see the brush marks, so once I get the whole thing covered, you know, then I just, however it winds up, you know, I'll just kind of paint on it till I say, okay, I like the texture in that one. Put a little bit of darkness in the crease here, like we have here. One a little bit more on the sides. Okay, so there we go. Now what we can do with this is we can stencil on it, we can draw on it, we could put a picture on the front, you know, cut a picture out of a magazine or out of a book or something that you have that you like and put that right on the front. And then once it's dry, we will attach it to this one. And that's going to look very pretty. Our green doesn't show up very well there. But what we're going to do is once it dries, then we are going to roll these edges down just a little bit so that when we go to put it on here, those edges round that way instead of rounding up. So we want them to touch like this instead of being standing up like that. But I'm going to go away. I'm going to use my dryer and dry this really quick, and then I will be back. Okay, I am back, and one thing that I forgot to do, which I think makes a difference, it makes it look a little bit, I just like it better, was that on here I cut a little bit of a swoop instead of just a straight line right across there. So the way that I did that was I just took a paper plate and then I just held it on there. This paper plate has a little bit of a ridge right here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it goes right around there. So I just took this paper plate, kind of lined it up on each side with that line, where that line touched the edge of my plate. And I just did like that. And then just cut it out. But I like things that just kind of are a little bit more flowy versus like straight edges in a lot of things, and this is definitely one of them. So I cut it like that, and so then when I looked at it, I thought, that's kind of nice, but I don't like these corners right here. So then I just went ahead and I just kind of rounded that corner just a little bit. Basically just took that corner off of there so there wasn't a sharp point. And to me, that little rounded corner looks better than this point over here. So I'm just going to do the same on this side. There we go. Now we have our rounded corners. Now, I like this color up here with this blue and the colors that we have in here. So I don't think I'm going to change this. I'm not going to paint this, but you can do that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to say, okay, this is going to come right to here. I'm going to make sure I have it lined up. I'm going to make just a little mark right there. And a little mark right over here. So we're starting to stop. And then what I'm going to do so that we don't have this lip on here is, and now on this paper plate, it's got like where they crease it together. Or, you know, like they kind of pleat it as they go. You can see those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here. I wonder if you can see the pleats. You might be able to see the pleats better on the back. So we'll just do it from the back side. It doesn't matter if you do it from the back or the front. Where's my other mark? My other mark is right here. Okay, so I'm going to go from there to there on this side, on my decorated side. All right, so I want to do it up here. I'm going to turn it over so that maybe you can see the pleats. So all I did was, I'm going to just cut off this little bit of a lip. But I didn't want to do a straight line because I can't cut a straight line hardly to save my life. So I'm going to start at this pleat and see, there's a pleat, there's a pleat, there's a pleat, there's a pleat. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to start here. And I'm just going to go up. Put that little slit just a little bit further, because I want to cut this part off. So I'm just going to go up, just right to that part that we want to cut off. And then as I come to the next pleat right there, I'm going to go down. And when I get there, I'm going to go up till I get to the next pleat and the edge of that part I want to cut off. Let's go up to that pleat and then down to this one. And this does not have to be exact. We hit that pleat, so we're going to go up, hit that pleat, go down, hit that one, go up and down until we get all the way to the other side. Now, I don't want to do this all the way around the paper plate because we're going to put the bottom part together. And so I want that little lip on the bottom part. But on the top part, I just think that this, again, it's just one of those little finishing touches that makes it not necessarily look as, it looks like a paper plate. There's no denying that. But it doesn't just like, it's not just in your face, oh, that's just a paper plate. Had to look how far we were going here. And like I said, these don't need to be exact. It just gives you a little bit of a ruffle. That's our ending spot right there. There we go. So now it looks like that on the part that we're going to see. So I like that. All right, now I did kind of, just roll these down a little bit. It doesn't take anything, just kind of doing it like that. Now these are going to go right on here, just like that. Now, in order to hold it, you could put a clothespin or something on it. In this case, I just stapled one staple right at the beginning and right at the end, just to make sure. I just kind of line them up. The biggest line up, I want to make sure that I'm lined up both plates at the edge here. The part that I cut there is not that big of a deal. So, I want to make sure it's lined up to the edge. And then just take your stapler, put a staple right out at the very outside edge. Like that. Just way out there. Now, remember we cut that, so that's why, whoops, and I didn't actually quite catch the edge of that one, which I should have, but that's why I didn't cut the whole plate. Oh, come on out of there. Put that someplace where it can't get on the floor. Okay, line that up. And do that again. But still, I want it I want it lined up very close to the edge because we're going to punch a hole on the other side of it. Hopefully we got it. Yep, just barely. That's really what we want, because we can actually even take it out later if we want to. I didn't take it out on my other one because it gets covered up. But now I'm just going to take this one and make sure that it's lined up. And give it a staple right out there at the edge. And we caught both sides. Again, just barely. Alrighty, so then what we're going to do, in order just, you can stop right there. You can just glue this together. You can staple it. You can do whatever you want. I like to put the fringe on them. So we're just going to take our paper punch, and our first piece of trim is going to be very close to this edge. Just make sure you don't punch your hole half and half. If you do, it's not going to make that big of a difference though. And what I do to make them all about the same is this punch has this little like part right here that fits right into this part of our plate really well. So I just push that in. Get away from that staple. Okay, I just pretty much push that in till it's at the edge of the plate and then punch. And then you can do them as close as you want to. I kind of left about maybe 1/8 of an inch between that hole and the edge of my hole punch, and then just punched, and just keep sliding them over, keeping this about where your paper plate is, and just do this all the way around. Once you get those all the way around, then you're just going to take some yarn, and it depends on how, you know, exactly what you want to put on there. You can use yarn, twine, floss, you know, anything that you want to. You could actually just take ribbon and just sew through the holes like this, just around. You know, you don't have to make it so that it hangs down like fringe. I'm just going to take my yarn, hold it at the bottom of my finger. Okay, so that is going to be one piece of yarn. It'll eventually get cut right here, and that's how long my yarn will be. So I'm going to hold it at the bottom of my finger and come down. That's one piece of yarn. When I get back to the bottom, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to just stop right there for this second, but you're going to just count your holes. I had 25 holes on my other one, so I would just wrap 25 times, and then I would have 25 pieces of string. Actually, I wrapped 27, and you want to make sure that your string ends at the bottom so that that is one piece for you to use. And then you're just going to cut it across the bottom, cut it off at the bottom. And then those are your strings, and they're all going to be about the same size. Because you're going on an angle, if you were to look at them hanging straight down, like if it was a piece of string or something that was real heavy, because this is fluffy, so this goes out quite a bit. But if this were to just hang straight down, these ones are going to be shorter, obviously, than these here, because they're all the same length, but yet these are all the way up here to start with. So they'll just be shorter, and it will just go down and around like this. Eventually, hopefully, I will have this trained, because I do want that to actually just kind of hang down instead of going straight out this way. And then all you do is you just take your yarn, fold it in half. I go from the back to the front because I like this piece being on the front. Go from the back to the front and give it a pull. And then just do the next one. Try and keep them kind of even. Then you don't have to trim it too much, or you may not have to really trim it at all. If you keep them even. If they get uneven, then you just, and I just mean the 2 lengths of your thread. These are all the same length, and your holes are pretty much in the same spot. So they're going to be basically the same length. But if you let one side be a lot longer than the other side, like that, then, and of course this is a real exaggeration, but when you put it through here, and you pull those 2 ends through and go like this, you know, now you've got, this one is really long and this one is really short, and it will have to be trimmed. So just try and make them about the same length, and then they'll all wind up being really close. So you're just going to do this, and you're going to do it all the way around, and then you can leave it just like that. Like I said, if you use string or something, it'll hang straight down. It'll kind of look like the bottom of a dream catcher if you do that. You can even just do some here and some here and let them hang down straight, and then do some in the middle and let them hang down straight instead of all the way around. You don't have to do that either. You know, and to me that might even look more like a dream catcher if you've got just some on each side and then some in the middle. Maybe. So you're just going to do that all the way around. Then if you want it to be fuzzy, if you have this kind of yarn that has a string wrapped around it, then all you do is knit that string up towards the top, because it wraps around and around and around and around, and it's really hard to comb it out. So if you just see that little piece of string at the top, I don't know where my scissors are, and then you just nip it right there. And that way it won't catch. And then just take a comb and just comb it out. Just like this. So, and if you can't get the thread nips, you know, these threads have come unwound very nicely. Every once in a while, though, they get a knot in them. And then you have to trim them. You have to cut it up there to get it unwound. And then just pull off any extra little furries, and there you go. So that is how you make one that can hang on your wall. And I really like these. They're great for holding tags and stuff. And then don't forget, you can also make one like this that you can use to hold your bits. And where's the other one? Put that one there. I'll put this one here. And again, they're just made to hold whatever you want to hold in them. I just really enjoy, put those in there, and some kind of little bits on top. So that's what we did today, and I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that this gave you at least some ideas of what you can do with some of your paper plates. They're very fun to play with, and you just, configure them in all different ways. You could really wind up with some fun stuff. If you think that it's not sturdy enough, you can always cut just a little half circle of cardboard to put between each layer. You could cut a piece of cardboard for the back that you would maybe somehow attach to the back of each of them to hold it up nice and straight, or maybe something up the front like this so that it couldn't bend forward. So, there's all sorts of ideas to do with them. And then the only thing is that because they're round, they work great for bits. Bits don't have to have a shape. Things that are big and square, when I put those in, they fell out. But that was because they're bigger than the area here on the flat bottom. So you'll put smaller tags or whatever in there, because the bigger your item, the more it's not going to fit into there. But if you have some little small ones like this, those will fit in there just fine and stay, because they're not being pushed out because they're so large. And even those, though, they're not too bad, but the smaller they are, the easier that they will fit on those little shelves that you have there. So, but I think they're great. I love to have something at my desk where I can toss things when I'm done with it, because I never put stuff away. And if you have a place to put it, Sonia has what she calls bead soup, and I just love it. And it's all her beads that she hasn't put them back in a certain container. She just puts them all together in a little bowl, and actually it's I love it when she digs through that. So this can be your little bits soup, so that you'll have something to dig through on your desk of stuff that you've already used. And actually then you'll be more likely to use it if it's sitting there where you can just dig through it and go, okay, I think I'll have that. Or, oh, I forgot that I had that, whatever. I don't have anything cool here, but, so yeah. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you enjoy this project, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.